This is Meet the Wolfhound. She's 11. She looks pretty good for 11, doesn't she? I like to tease her. I say, "You're actually not a wolfhound. You're a dragon that lost its wings." But okay, guys, what do we got here? I think we're in a new regime. I think everything just changed. I really do. We might be at the end of the speckled speculation. So there's this thing this time of year for the Federal Reserve in Jackson Hole. And the Federal Reserve governors, there's 12 regions around the country. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And they wanted the first of these, I think, was in the late 70s. And they invited, who's the famous guy from the 70s? I can't think of his name right now. The real tall guy. Anyways, he's a big fly fisherman. So the Fed governors wanted him to meet somewhere. So they said, we're going to have a big meeting in Jackson Hole where there's like the best fly fishing in the world. So that's what started it. Anyways, so Warsh is this guy. He worked for Druckenmiller, I think. Yeah. And everybody thinks that Trump, first of all, everybody thinks that Trump runs everything. And I don't think that that's the case at all. Wait to the break here. It's a cool song. So I published in the note thing on Substack, the price of diesel fuel is almost at $6. Now, out here in the sticks, you can't do anything without putting diesel fuel in something. You can't run a backhoe, you can't run a tractor, you can't pull a trailer, you can't cut the corn, you can't make hay. Everything is diesel fuel. It's just, you like get up in the morning, have coffee, and then you go put diesel fuel in something. If it clips 6 and heads to 7, the economy is very, very different. So Warsh came out and said a number of things. He said the Fed has to take responsibility for the fact that they're way off of their 2% goal of inflation. And it's been running like 3.7, 3.8. I think it's a couple points higher than that, but let's all calm down. I mean, like I always say, lunch used to be $5 for a tuna salad sandwich and an iced tea. And then it was $10, then it was $20, and now it's $23. And with a $4 iced tea and a tip, you're like looking at like $27 for lunch, right? Well, that's over the last 25 years, which means lunch has doubled once, twice, and again, which means at 6%, you double every 12 years. So right around a little over 7%, you double every 10 years. So he said the Fed has to take responsibility that inflation has been running, I think, for like the last 8 or 10 quarters, above 3.5% or something like that. And then he made the comment that I think is really different from everything that I've always heard in my career. And that is the Fed has always talks about its dual mandate of inflation and employment. And it's always expressed like you either go or you stop, you go back and forth. I should go like this, back and forth between these two things. And he made the comment today that inflation hurts employment. And I've never heard that from a Fed governor before. I really think there's a new sheriff in town. I think the speckled speculation is over. Between the $6 diesel fuel, what are we at right now? The Fed funds is like 3.5. I was talking to my dad about it. I was like, why is it so fucking awful for an old woman to be able to walk into a bank and make 4% on her money? In 1994, they should have just set interest rates at 4% and everybody shut the fuck up and just had 4% interest rates for the last 30 years. right? Like there would have been bubbles and there would have been this and there would have been that. But Mrs. Kowalski, that's my euphemism for some nice retired woman, should be able to make 4% on her money with no risk. Think about it. That's all her walking around money. She can take the grandchildren out for lunch or buy them Christmas presents or whatever, because she makes 4 grand with no risk. The Fed for the last 20 years has been it, like it's just been this thing like everybody, what's the Fed going to do? What's the Fed going to do? You think the Fed's going to raise? Blah, 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 blah. Just fucking on and on. Fed stands ready. This data dependent and all this bullshit. I mean, if you could probably with AI take like the last 25 years of CNBC. I'll bet you 40% of the information on CNBC is about the Federal Reserve. Like we don't get up in the morning and like make things, build things, pay down debt. God forbid anybody ever pay their fucking debts down, right? So everything is constantly, I think of it like someone trying to like make a canoe go through the water by leaning back and forth. Follow me? So we might be, and then of course everybody's like, what about the AI bubble? Well, he ain't coming to the rescue of the fucking AI bubble, I can tell you that. And which brings me to this deluge thing. This is going to be like a new theme for me. If the 10-year goes above 5%, by the way, the mean for the last 100 years was 5.5% for the 10-year. So if it went to average of 5.5%, I think what happens is the stock market becomes paralyzed. The yield as a percentage GDP, corporate profits are at an all-time high. Is it 18 or go look it up? It's significantly higher than the norms. But more importantly, where was I going with this? NVIDIA has a $1 trillion loan portfolio. Excuse me, I have to sneeze. The financing of this AI thing is just completely fucking insane. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So the yield of earnings on the NASDAQ is like 2.7%. And in fact, there was like 30 billion. You all right? There's like 130 billion of profits in the NASDAQ 100 from capital gains, right? Well, it's not, they do it that way in accounting, but you and I know that if you own a stock and it goes up, you didn't make more income that month. But that's just the way they do it in generally accepted accounting principles. So if you can get 5.5% on the 10-year, and let's say something goes wrong in tech world, which it will, and you're getting like 2.5% earnings yield on the NASDAQ, that doesn't work. But he isn't coming to the rescue. Warsh is not the rescue. I think the rescue is the deluge. I'm increasingly, let me just lay this on you. What the deluge would be is all the private equity, all the venture capital, all the bad real estate loans, everything like a farm auction, right? The guy dies and like July 11th, absolute auction, everything must go. They'll just take all the financial shit, tokenize it. That means on chain, on blockchain. I think the word crypto is going to go away, and I think the word blockchain is just going to become on chain, just on chain. Everything's going to be on chain. I think it's already there. And Trump will come out. We did a deal. We met with the Fed and Wall Street, and Lutnick will be there, and we found $150 trillion, and we're just going to give it to the American people. This is win-win-win for everybody. It's the greatest deal ever. So some psychobabble bullshit will come out like that. And what they'll do is they'll just dump all the treasuries boat loans, fucking ownership of the Bureau of Land Management, just everything that they can shake a stick at. And that's the bankruptcy of the United States. Now, if you're like, come on, dude, like it's a nice, pretty barn and everything, and the bankruptcy, that what I'm telling you is if Warsh and the Fed ain't coming to rescue this $22 trillion, if they're not coming to rescue the $22 trillion AI thingy, they ain't coming to rescue anything. It's over. I just said to my dad, he's up in the field mowing, and I took him a coffee. And I was like, Dad, my whole fucking career since 1999 is just everything is always in a recovery, and the Fed stands data dependent, and everybody wakes up in the morning and waits for the next hit to come from the Fed. I think it's over. I think it's over. And what they don't tell you, that anybody who's ever read more than 7 books knows, the inflation and interest rate cycle is very long, sometimes called the long cycle. Well, it just started in 2021. Like, we have 30 years to look forward to. The deluge, that would be a way to restructure the banking system, private equity, the treasuries, the stable coins. See where I'm going with this? Everything's going to be on chain, and the Fed is just going to step back and become what the Fed used to be. If you've ever wanted to do this, if you don't have anything else to do this weekend, maybe I'll even like throw a Manus piece together. Central banking, I think, started in Sweden, moved to the Netherlands, Amsterdam, then to Britain, and then to the United States, famously in 1913 on my birthday, December 23rd. All the conspiracy books about it. The most famous one is called Creature from Jekyll Island. Let me just walk you through what central banking is and is not, because I've studied it for a long time. And most people who think that they understand the Federal Reserve do not. It's like most people who think they can build a fire in the woods can't, unless they have like kerosene or something to make it easy. A central bank is to be the bank of banks. Some of them are owned by the government. Some of them are private. The one in Switzerland is publicly traded. You can buy the Swiss National Bank on the stock exchange. If I remember right, in Germany, it's owned by the state. Ours is owned by the banks. There's nothing to say that Congress couldn't pass a law and say the U.S. Treasury owns the Federal Reserve. And this thing with banking and the second bank of the United States and Andrew, it's a very complicated subject. Most people don't really understand it. You can talk about it at a cocktail party, and most people will be like, well, the Fed controls inflation. The Fed doesn't control inflation. If there was a drought out west and the price of corn went to $9 a bushel, it doesn't matter what the fuck they do with interest rates, there's going to be inflation. Exactly. That's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling you. What are you doing? Huh? Good girl. She had a really bad fever about 2 months ago. We thought she was dead. She got through it. What's going on? Hey, my God, is your breath awful? What? Go lay down. I'm live. I'm live on Substack. Go away. Come on. Big breathing monster. I want to say hi to the people. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. We're doing central banking. Go lay down somewhere. So, central banks were originally created to prevent a bank panic like we had during the Depression, where you wipe out all the. What are you doing? It's like she knows I'm talking to somebody, right? And you're a little jealous, It's a female thing. You're allowed to talk like that on a farm. You don't have to be politically correct here. It's the bank of banks. It's the way a central bank is supposed to work. Is this thing called the discount window? When a bank gets in trouble, it's to go and quote post collateral, like I guess in the day they used to like carry all these loans over and say, here, I'm giving you these loans and maybe some gold. Lend me some money so my bank doesn't fail. Because if my bank fails, it'll cause a bank run and all the banks will fail together. That's the good, positive explanation of why there's central banks. What has happened in this country for the last 25 years is the central bank has become the engine of the economy. You with me on this? I got to do this. Just stay there for a second. Is it better? A little bit. It's scratched. I need a new phone. Anyways, we're headed back to LA where we're going to have like real equipment and so forth. You're not supposed to get up all fucking day and just sit around and go, what's the Fed going to do? What's the Fed going to do? What's the Fed? And then run 0% interest rates for 15 years. That's not what the Federal Reserve is meant for. We turned the Fed into like our national hedge fund, our national, like, if you remember from 5th grade, Andrew Jackson shut down the second bank of the United States. It was going through its second charter. The charter was passed. He was a bit of a wild man. And what he did is he just pulled all the money, all the federal money out of the bank, and it just went bankrupt. He just did it by diktat. I thought in Trump 1 that that's what Trump was being brought in to do was like to there was so much talk about the American system and national economy and these kinds of like historical things. I thought Trump was coming in to kind of restructure the Fed. And I think what Trump 47 is, even though I bust his balls about unbelievable, I lose or run. I know I had to get a couple of those in there. I think Trump is brought in to like restructure the whole thing, which means the Fed is not going to run the economy anymore. We're going to have to get up in the morning and work for a living. Mark Faber's this guy I always talk about. He's on Substack. He's Boom, Doom, and Gloom. He's Swiss. I think he's like 80 years old. And he's not so famously, but I remembered very well because I thought it was just so bizarre. In an interview, I think on CNBC or Bloomberg or something like that, when Ben Bernanke was coming and the TARP and the Goldman Sachs became a bank and bailout of AIG, they bailed out GE Capital, they bailed out fucking everything, right? He said what they should have done is raised interest rates. This is Mark Faber. In other words, if you're gonna prune the tree, just fucking prune it. Don't just like dick around with it and like trim a couple little thingies off. Like just fucking saw it off. And instead, what we went into was speculated speculation. 0% interest rates on $100,000 pickups. Nobody needs a fucking $100,000 pickup, right? Here comes my dad. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Speaking of $100,000, that's what that tractor you'll see here in a second. Is it there? I have like a glare, so I can't sit. Yeah. So that's a good thing to look at. Like that's worth like $75,000. It'd be like $140,000 new. That mower was bought when I was in prep school. So this is sort of a fun thing to think about with interest rates. If everybody runs around with 0% interest rates, what do? Well, let's just go buy a new mower. Let's go spend money on this. Let's go spend money on that. Like everything for the last 25 years has been accelerated depreciation, tax cuts, dividend tax cuts, cuts. There's nothing left to cut. There's no more tricks. There's no more fucking around. And I think that's what just changed today. So the Fed is going to act like what the Fed's supposed to do, and that's to set interest rates above the rate of inflation, which means if it's 3.7, we should be getting 4.7 or 5.25 at the bank. That's it. It's called positive interest rates. It's the simplest thing there is. Playtime's over. And I'm going to be sending out today. I'm going to be sending out a proposal I sent to somebody who's on Substack. I won't use his name because I don't have permission to. But for a robo-advisor that I think now's when we do this, because now is where the big change is in the economy. Commodities are taking over. Interest rates are going to be normalized. Diesel fuel above $5 and $6 is probably the norm. Oil above 100 is the new norm. We're going back to like a real economy in both senses of the term real, like not speculative speculation, not everything that has a fucking tech software AI output is therefore worth more than all the farmland in North America, which is insane. I think everything just changed. The other thing you'll probably hear from Camille and I next week, this is for subscribers, free subscribers. We have subscribers. I really want to get to 5,000 subscribers. We have like 4,400. And I'm going to do this thing next week for $1,000. And I want you to pay attention to it. It's going to go to the subscribers, and you're going to partly own an agent with us. And we want to do all the opportunity zones and all the zip codes that you want to do for $1,000. I'll talk more about it next week. So everything just changed, people. Now, what the stock market's going to do, but this is not investment advice. But if you have these enormous gains, like in 6 months or a year, you're going to be able to put capital to work and make 5 and 6% in a CD, annuity, bond fund, solid bond fund. They're all sort of the same thing. Like at some point, you just can't live off the speculation. At some point, the rubber has to hit the. A really good way to think of all this whenever I get lost, and I do a lot of times, is I think of, instead of using the word leverage, which is what debt is, I like to use the word gearing. A gear is a kind of lever, right? So what Warsh just announced is we're going back into third gear. We're going to get out of like seventh gear, hair on fire, and we're going to go back into like normal gearing. They can't throw gasoline on, pun intended, they can't throw gasoline on $6 diesel fuel. Should probably just stop there. But if you're not a subscriber, pay attention this week. Camille and I are going to spend the weekend working together. We're going to send you some pretty neat stuff. And I think you really need to see it as we're trying to build like this big syndicate together with blockchain, with AI, with just common knowledge. Here's where I'll leave it with you. The problem is that we've been running the economy as though like it's one big corporation run by the Federal Reserve. Feeling me? It's like a centralized system. It's like the Fed. Everybody goes, what's the Fed going to do? What's the Fed's going to do? And then all the capital is managed here by BlackRock and Goldman Sachs. And that just gets moved up and down by the Fed going up and down. So everybody sucks all the money out of the economy into financial assets, not real assets, not things that make anything. We went to the robotics thing. There were 666 teams there. 640 are from China. I'm going to go crazy here and say, like, I think we're a little bit behind on the tech thing. Okay? That whole thing just went away. It's the Federal Reserve is going to go back to be what it's supposed to be. It's just this quiet little thing that once in a while comes out and rescues a little bank somewhere. That's what it was meant to be. It wasn't supposed to run the universe. Say goodbye, Finnegan. Finnegan, say goodbye. We need subscribers. Help me get to 5,000. 5,000 would be nice. I got this whole Legion thing going on. We'll explain more. And give me an hour, and I'm in this for all the free subscribers. I'm going to put the proposal in for the Robo Advisors. So check that out. Have a nice weekend. Great tune.